Right now, in 2026, the Democratic Republic of Congo is in the middle of its 17th Ebola outbreak. There is no licensed vaccine for this strain. No approved treatment. The fatality rate has run as high as 50% in past outbreaks of this exact virus. The World Health Organization has declared it a global health emergency. The whole world is watching Congo right now, bracing for the worst. But here's what almost nobody is reporting. A single ordinary disease, spread by something as small as a mosquito, killed roughly 100 times more Congolese people last year alone than this entire Ebola outbreak has killed so far. The Democratic Republic of Congo. Over 115 million people, the second most populous country in Africa, and the 11th largest country on Earth by land area. It sits on staggering mineral wealth. The cobalt in your phone battery and the copper in your laptop almost certainly passed through Congolese soil. And yet, the average Congolese person earns roughly $1,100 a year, making this one of the poorest countries on the planet by income, despite being one of the richest by what's buried beneath it. Life expectancy sits at around 62 years, a full decade below the global average. Public health spending accounts for just 3.1% of the entire economy, and roughly 3 out of every 4 Congolese citizens pay for their own health care out of pocket, because there is no functioning system to do it for them. Only 30% of the population lives within 5 kilometers of a health facility. For the other 70%, getting treated for anything, a snake bite, a difficult birth, a fever, can mean a multi-day walk. This is the country the world currently associates almost entirely with one word: Ebola. It is also the country where, this year, a mosquito will kill far more people than that outbreak ever will. Before we go further, here's your true or false. Ebola is currently one of the top 5 causes of death in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Take a moment. If you've been watching the news this year, you might say true. The answer is false. And it isn't close. Here is what is actually killing the most people in Congo, year after year, largely outside the headlines. Number 1. Malaria. In 2023, the DRC's own Ministry of Public Health recorded 24,344 malaria deaths. In 2022, it was 24,880. This single disease, spread entirely by mosquito bite, accounts for over 11% of all malaria deaths on Earth, the second highest toll of any country, beaten only by Nigeria. Number 2. Lower respiratory infections, pneumonia, and similar illnesses that disproportionately kill young children and the elderly, made worse by malnutrition and overcrowded, poorly ventilated housing. Number 3. Diarrheal disease, the kind caused by contaminated water, which remains a leading killer of children under 5 worldwide, and hits especially hard in a country where reliable clean water access is far from universal. Number 4. Complications around childbirth. In 2023, an estimated 18,661 Congolese women died during pregnancy or childbirth, one of the highest absolute maternal death tolls anywhere in the world. Number 5. Tuberculosis, often worsened by HIV co-infection and crowded, unventilated living conditions. Notice what's missing from that list. Ebola isn't on it. The current outbreak, the DRC's 17th since 1976, has caused approximately 232 confirmed deaths inside the country as of this recording. Malaria alone killed more people than that in roughly the time it took the World Health Organization to convene its emergency committee. So what is malaria actually doing inside the body? And why, in 2026, with a cure that has existed for decades, Is it still killing tens of thousands of Congolese people every year? It starts with a bite. A female Anopheles mosquito, infected with a parasite called Plasmodium, bites a person and injects that parasite directly into the bloodstream. The parasite travels straight to the liver, where it hides and multiplies silently for about a week. You feel nothing. Then it bursts out of the liver and invades your red blood cells, the cells that carry oxygen through your entire body. Inside each red blood cell, the parasite feeds, grows, and eventually ruptures the cell open, releasing a fresh wave of parasites to repeat the entire cycle every 48 to 72 hours. This is why malaria's signature symptom is a cyclical fever. It spikes violently, breaks into drenching sweats, and then returns like clockwork, because that's literally the rhythm of the parasite's life cycle exploding inside your blood. In most cases, with treatment, this is unpleasant but survivable. In severe cases, and this is overwhelmingly a disease of young children with no built-up immunity, something far more dangerous happens. Red blood cells packed with parasites become sticky and start clogging the tiny blood vessels in the brain. This is cerebral malaria. It causes seizures, then coma, and it can kill within hours if untreated. In other severe cases, the destruction of red blood cells outpaces the body's ability to replace them, causing severe anemia that starves organs of oxygen until they begin to fail. Here's the thing that makes this genuinely hard to sit with. Malaria is one of the most preventable and treatable diseases on the planet. Insecticide-treated bed nets, indoor spraying, rapid diagnostic tests, and a course of medicine costing just a few dollars can stop this disease in its tracks. So why does the DRC still lose roughly 24,000 people to it every year? Geography is part of it. The country's vast, humid, densely forested terrain creates near-perfect mosquito breeding conditions almost everywhere, year-round. But the bigger reason is access. Only 30% of the population lives within 5 kilometers of a health facility. Researchers estimate the country needs more than 57,000 additional community care sites to close that gap. And as of the most recent count, only about 13% of those have actually been built. For a child in a remote village having a seizure from cerebral malaria, the nearest rapid diagnostic test and dose of medicine might be hours or days away. The disease isn't winning because medicine has no answer. It's winning because the answer can't physically reach the person who needs it in time. To understand why Congo's health system looks like this today, you have to go back 30 years to one of the deadliest, least discussed catastrophes of the modern era. In the 1990s, following independence-era underinvestment, the country was pulled into the First and then the Second Congo War, a conflict so vast and so devastating that historians often call it Africa's World War. 9 African nations and roughly 25 armed groups were drawn into the fighting at its peak. Researchers studying excess mortality during and after this period estimated that up to 6 million people died, not always from bullets, but overwhelmingly from the collapse of food systems, clean water, and healthcare that war brings with it. 6 million. That places it among the deadliest conflicts anywhere in the world since the Second World War, and yet it barely registers in most people's understanding of recent history. The war officially ended in 2003, but peace in the East never fully arrived. Armed groups, including the M23 rebellion and the Allied Democratic Forces, have continued operating in the decades since, displacing millions and ensuring that large parts of eastern Congo remain in a permanent, low-grade state of crisis. As of early 2025, more than 7 million Congolese people were internally displaced. the highest number anywhere in Africa. This is the context that explains why Congo's death profile has barely shifted since 1990, even while many of its neighbors made real progress against malaria and infectious disease. You cannot build the 57,000 community health posts a country needs when entire provinces are being fought over. You cannot run a stable vaccination campaign when families are being displaced every few months. There has been some genuine progress. Malaria death rates per population at risk did fall by nearly 11% between just 2023 and 2024, driven by expanded bednet distribution and new vaccines entering routine immunization in places like the DRC. But case numbers are rising even as death rates inch down, and more than 4.5 million Congolese children faced acute malnutrition between mid-2024 and mid-2025 alone. Malnutrition that makes every other disease on this list more lethal. Progress here is real, but it is happening against a current of conflict and displacement that most of the world has simply stopped paying attention to. Let's put the two diseases side by side one more time, because the contrast is the whole point of this episode. The current Ebola outbreak, a WHO public health emergency of international concern, a global emergency committee convened within days, international funding mobilized almost immediately, and roughly 232 confirmed deaths inside the DRC as of this recording. Malaria, in a single ordinary year, 24,344 deaths. No emergency committee, no global press conference, just a funding gap, year after year, that the global malaria community estimates at over $4 billion annually. This isn't a criticism of the Ebola response, a disease with no vaccine, a fatality rate up to 50%, and the potential to spread across borders absolutely deserves urgency. The problem isn't that the world reacts to Ebola, it's that the world has stopped reacting to malaria, diarrhea, and childbirth, the unglamorous, ordinary killers that, in Congo, do almost all of the work that Ebola gets blamed for in the public imagination. There's a human cost to this mismatch of attention. In May of this year, in a town called Rwampara, residents tried to reclaim the body of a young man they insisted had died of typhoid, not Ebola. When health workers wouldn't release the body, the situation turned violent. Protesters set fire to treatment tents where Ebola patients were being cared for. Days before that, 18 suspected Ebola patients fled a different treatment center after residents attacked it. This isn't simple panic. It's the visible result of a population that has spent decades watching the world arrive in a crisis and disappear once the cameras leave. And malaria, the disease that actually kills them, never gets cameras at all. Next, we are going to Kenya, a country that, in the span of one generation, completely flipped what kills its people. In the year 2000, the answer was HIV without question. Today, it's something almost nobody saw coming.